This is TV9 News at Christmas with Bruce Owney, Edie Fawcett, and Liz Mathis.
Merry Christmas. I'm Liz Mathis.
I'm Edie Fawcett.
And I'm Bruce Owney. Welcome to TV9 News at Christmas. Although we're just a few days away from the beginning of a new year, we don't want to move on without recapping the most memorable news stories of 2003.
The war in Iraq tops that list of memorable stories. Throughout the year, we've watched thousands of Iowa National Guardsmen and reservists leave the state. Unfortunately, many of our soldiers haven't returned yet, and we will honor those who have fallen later in the show.
For months now, we've been visited by presidential candidates, campaign supporters, and national media representatives. With the caucuses right around the corner, the national spotlight continues to shine on Iowa.
And do you remember when Governor Vilsack chose the final design for our state quarter? It features Grant Wood's Arbor Day painting with the slogan, "Foundation in Education." Watch for those coins to be coming out next August.
Now, how can we forget the public debates over Coralville's $63 million hotel and convention center, the Blue Stem Solid Waste Agency's landfill expansion near Marion, and the $50 million Iowa Environmental Education Project, formerly the Iowa Child Project, featuring an indoor rainforest and aquarium?
And what about the Iowa City School District's largest bond issue ever passed? The $39 million will be used to build 3 new schools and expand 7 others in the coming years. The Iowa City Council passed an ordinance banning people under 19 from entering bars after 10 p.m. And back in April, Iowa State University coach Larry Eustace made the headlines when he was fired for partying with students.
2003 also brought enhancements to Eastern Iowa's cultural community. The new African American Museum and Cultural Center opened in Cedar Rapids. There's also the renovation of the Englert Theater in Iowa City, the development of the Port of Dubuque along the Mississippi, and the remodeling of the Museum of Art, the Science Station, and the Paramount Theater in Cedar Rapids.
We began the year with the Iowa Hawkeyes in the Orange Bowl, and we round out the year with the capture of Saddam Hussein.
2003 has been a historical year nationally and locally. Join us now as we take a closer look at the people and places who will be added to Eastern Iowa's history books this year.
During the holiday season, many families take time to count their blessings. Some would say a Cedar Rapids family received the ultimate blessing this year. The Fentress family's baby girl is healthy now after being diagnosed with a rare form of cancer. But they call it more than a blessing. They consider it a miracle.
Dr. Lowe.
Right, Dr. Lowe.
Brianna Fentress isn't your typical 18-month-old child. She knows the names of all her doctors and nurses. Brianna spent the last 6 months battling a rare form of cancer called germ cell teratoma, which usually develops in the embryo stage or shortly after birth.
And it's rare for her size of child, but it responds really well to drug therapy.
Overalls.
Brianna's mom, Joanna, noticed a large bump on Brianna's buttocks in June. And after a trip to the emergency room, doctors quickly sent her to the pediatric cancer floor.
We're stuck with the thought of, nah, it's not cancer. I mean, it could be a tumor and we might have to have surgery, but cancer? No, I've never even heard of a girl having cancer at her age.
Her parents' thoughts of disbelief quickly turned to sadness as doctors explained the tumor was cancer and was wrapped around the sciatic nerve, which could create complications, including effects on Brianna's ability to walk. Doctors suggested several rounds of chemotherapy and eventually surgery to remove the cancer.
We were both sick when we left the day before her surgery, when we left talking with the surgeon, because we thought of all these things, but you know, they have to cover everything that could possibly go wrong.
Up we go. Okay.
But the Fentress family believes God was working the minute doctors discovered the cancer. Family members started a website about Brianna's story and a prayer map. People from around the world began to pray.
Right away, we could see that God was definitely working here, not only helping us with comfort because of all these people, but also these people were moved by Brianna.
All those prayers created a miracle. Doctors did not find a trace of the tumor during Brianna's surgery in October.
The MRI showed that there was significant tumor in there. And when they went in and couldn't find anything, they were almost a little bit frustrated.
Doctors only removed a little spot that turned out not to be cancerous.
No scar tissue. And when the pathology came back with the one little spot and it was still negative, man, I think maybe, yes, the chemotherapy did a whole lot, and obviously they're attributing it to the chemotherapy, but wow, I looked at that as a miracle.
In Cedar Rapids, Cassie Willis, KCRG-TV9 News.
Doctors will continue to monitor Brianna for cancer for the rest of her life. But after 5 years, this type of cancer is less likely to return, and her most recent scan showed no new signs of tumor growth. May 15th may be a night one Eastern Iowa family and the Janesville Fire Department will never forget.
On that day, 2-year-old Destiny Ott fell into a 25-foot deep cistern well. She was trapped, and the dozens of people who worked to rescue her say it's a night that hit close to home. KCRG-TV9's Nick Glue has the story.
In 18 years as Janesville's fire chief, Brian Destival says it was the first time they'd ever rescued anyone inside a pit. But they quickly went to work on the night Destiny Ott became trapped underground in an old abandoned well. Now 7 months later, he remembers his first thoughts when he arrived on scene to find Destiny and her uncle, who was trying to help her, sitting at the bottom of the well.
It was a tough call. We had to, one, we don't work with it every day, and two, a small department like we are, we don't have all the equipment, necessarily to do that kind of a rescue.
The Cedar Falls Fire Department provided much of the equipment needed to perform the rescue, and before long, Destiny had been removed from the well. She was cold and scared, but her injuries were only minor.
It's been a traumatic experience for her and for everybody involved, and we just want to put the closure on it now and go on with our lives.
The firefighters who rescued Destiny had a chance to meet the young girl after she was released from the hospital. They made her honorary fire chief for the day. She had been evacuated from the scene of the accident so quickly that for many of them, this was the first time they saw Destiny smile.
It was kind of hard on them that night out there because it was just when they brought her out of the hole, she was rushed away, and nobody knew how she was. But then seeing her that day, everybody was a little more happy because they got to meet her personally and know that the family appreciated everything that went on. And
the Janesville fire chief says there was a similar well found in his yard back in the 1980s. Someone tripped on it, but luckily no one fell in and the problem was fixed. And besides a couple of grain bin rescues, he says this has been the most challenging rescue his department has ever performed. In Janesville, Nick Glue, KCRG-TV9 News.
The nation's most famous rescue of a child in a well was Jessica McClure in 1987. That 2-year-old was trapped for 58 hours, and the rescue generated worldwide news coverage and even a movie. The war in Iraq began on March 20th. More than 3,600 Iowans were deployed this year.
And many Eastern Iowans are waiting for their loved ones to come back home. Meet some of the soldiers who fought for our country when we come back. Welcome back to TV9 News at Christmas. Thousands of Iowa soldiers are spending their holidays overseas this season.
Many have not even been home since their deployment. But for one Eastern Iowa family, the gifts arrived early, and they couldn't be happier. KCRG-TV9's Diane Pathew has more from Dubuque County.
Good job. Nice. Now go line up and
Christmas came a little early for this Eastern Iowa family.
We'll color in our flowers.
Major Ron Brosius spends every last moment of his day with his wife and children, knowing he'll head overseas in the morning, hoping he'll return next April.
I think we have a mission of freedom and liberty for the Iraqi people, and that's what we're after.
So the Brosiuses are cramming their Thanksgiving and Christmas holidays to fit Ron's 15-day R&R break. And the best gift Ron received? Seeing his family again and meeting one member for the first time.
I need to come back. It does get stressful and frustrating over there, but I wanted to see my kids. I talked to Katie, she's 2 now, and she's talking, and when I left, she wasn't talking nearly as much. And obviously there's Logan, who was born while I was gone, so I had a lot of incentive and motivation to get home.
Remembering the birth of Logan, Ron's wife Carla says it was one of the most difficult times during Ron's deployment.
My mom was with me, and Ron's sister was with me, and we did it. They had pictures to Ron within an hour or 2 hours, I think, and he called me within 3 hours after Logan was born.
When they heard Ron was arriving in November, they could hardly wait to see him. A teacher in the Western Dubuque School District, Carla was able to take time off and spend the days with her husband, sharing moments Ron will keep in his mind and appreciate even more, especially after seeing some unforgettable sights in Iraq.
What amazed me driving up to Baghdad the few times I made that trip is the living conditions in the south compared to near Baghdad. People were literally, these kids were in huts, mud huts, grass houses. A lot of times the kids would be along the roads and you're wondering where they came from, because for miles and miles along the horizon you cannot see a thing.
Let me at it.
That's how you can make an American flag.
In the meantime, this National Guardsman takes it all in, knowing full well it might be months before he returns.
We'll just keep doing our job until the Army says I can go home.
And for now, it's back to Kuwait. In Piasta, Diane Pathew, KCRG-TV9 News.
Ron's unit is responsible for all of the security overseas, which includes 2 base camps in Iraq and many others in Kuwait. The war in Iraq has been much different from all other wars the U.S. has fought in.
This time, email and satellite phones have kept our soldiers and sailors in direct contact with their families back home, often on a daily basis. And this time, embedded journalists gave us live, televised reports from the war front, even as actual battles were underway.
In a way, the images we saw from Iraq and the dominance of U.S. forces there created an unreal sensation for us here at home. At first, it was hard to picture the actual horrors of this war. But it wasn't long before the realities reached all Americans, especially those here in Iowa. The first Iowan to die was Marine Sergeant Bradley Courthouse of Davenport. The 28-year-old drowned in late March while swimming with other Marines across a canal in southern Iraq. They were trying to provide cover to a water purification team on the other side. Just a few weeks later, as U.S. troops closed in on Baghdad, a battle in the Iraqi capital killed Marine Gunnery Sergeant Jeff Bohr of Ashen. The 39-year-old Bohr was a 20-year military veteran. Before going to Iraq, he had told his father he wanted to help end Saddam Hussein's rule.
He was all game to go, you know. I told him I didn't really think maybe we ought to be doing this. And he said, "No, Dad," he says, "I see more paperwork and I know more about this than, you know." He says that we definitely got to go over there.
An attack on an Army convoy in late May killed 19-year-old Army Private Kenneth Nally of Hamburg, Iowa. Then about 2 months later, 21-year-old Michael Deutsch of Dubuque died when an explosive round hit his armored personnel carrier. Private Deutsch was in the Iowa National Guard. Ironically, his family didn't even know he was in Iraq until they learned of his death. In August, the war claimed the life of another Iowa National Guard soldier. 31-year-old Private First Class David Kirchhoff of Cedar Rapids died at a hospital in Germany after suffering heat stroke in Iraq. He and his wife Brooke had just been married 4 months earlier. Then in early November, a rocket attack on a Chinook helicopter like this killed 16 U.S. troops, including more Iowa National Guard soldiers.
You know, this week, unfortunately, there's been a black cloud hung over the Iowa National Guard. We've lost 2.
The 2 Iowa Guard members who died included Chief Warrant Officer Bruce Smith of West Liberty. He was one of the Chinook's pilots.
I was so proud of him when I woke up the day, you know, when they told me, and I'm thinking, oh, you know, first thing it's like, oh man, what did I do to deserve this? What did I do to deserve this? But the next day I woke up and I walked down to the barn. I wore his shoes. I wore his boots because mine have a hole in it. Of course, his things were always in much better shape than mine. So I wore his boots down to the barn, and I sat in there, and I thought, you know, suddenly I was just so proud of him. And it's like, oh my God, you know.
The Chinook helicopter attack also took the life of Sergeant Paul Fisher of Cedar Rapids. The 39-year-old Fisher was the helicopter's crew chief. First reports indicated he was injured in the attack and would recover, but within 2 days, Fisher had died at a hospital in Germany. Less than a week later, Army Private Kurt Froscheiser of Des Moines was killed when the Humvee he was in ran over an explosive device near Baghdad. And then on the Saturday after Thanksgiving, an attack on a U.S. convoy killed 22-year-old Aaron Sissel of Tipton. Friends say the Army specialist had wanted to serve in the National Guard since he was a boy.
I guess this is really how the global war on terrorism hits back home, clear down to small town Iowa when something like this happens.
Several thousand Iowans in the reserves, National Guard, and regular military are still serving in Iraq and the rest of the Middle East. We wish those troops and others throughout the world a peaceful holiday season and, of course, a safe return home. Some Linn County families will be spending the holidays in their newly reconstructed homes.
They've been busy fixing up their homes ever since an F2 tornado struck the town of Covington July 20th. Moments later, another tornado ripped through Peace Avenue in northwest Cedar Rapids. The National Weather Service says that same night, tornadoes also touched down in Cedar County, Benton County near Vinton, and near Mount Vernon. KCRG-TV9's Renee Chu shows us how one eastern Iowa family has rebuilt their calm after the storm.
The holidays just makes you reflect on just how much you do have, not what you've lost, but how much you still do have.
This Christmas, the Potter family is home for the holidays in a larger home. Talk renovations over the years turned into action when a tornado forced their hand by tearing the roof of their Covington home.
Actually, I had convinced myself I was too old to start building a house. And I guess God said, no, you're not.
Every day ever since the storm hit, Don Potter has been working on the house. The family moved into an apartment while contractors helped convert the damage back into a dream home. Professionals weren't the only ones offering their help.
When this happened to us, so many friends came out to give support and to help us through that bad time. And a lot of people that didn't even know us, that just saw what we were going through, came and lent a hand and just got us back on our feet again.
The family's insurance took care of everything needed to rebuild the original house. The upgrade from more than 1,000 square feet to more than 1,800 square feet was out of their own pocket.
Right from day one, I knew that there would be many blessings coming out of this. There was never a point when I really felt depressed or lost. I just knew that something better was coming, and it was just a matter of going through some inconvenience now, but I knew it was coming.
1 week before Thanksgiving, the Potters moved back into their home of 20 years. The revamped house features a vaulted ceiling, additional rooms, plus plenty of windows to let in the light. The only evidence of the storm damage is this pile of what used to be standing trees on the property.
And as violent as this was, it could have been much more devastating. We could have been killed. But we weren't, and neither was anyone else in this entire storm. I mean, we were all saved, and so we're very thankful for that.
In Covington, Renee Chu, KCRG-TV9 News.
The storm cleanup tab for the city of Cedar Rapids cleanup costs totaled around $800,000. Linn County spent about $40,000 on repairs, and of course, there were the personal costs of repairing homes and businesses. Well, gambling has been a hot topic in Iowa this year.
If the moratorium on new casinos is lifted in the new year, we will have even more chances to gamble in the state. In the meantime, many eastern Iowa counties are making plans for future gambling licenses. We'll show you what they have in mind next. Welcome back to TV9 News at Christmas. Well, if you bet that the Meskwaki Casino would be open by Christmas, you lost your money.
Federal authorities closed the casino back on May 23rd, and after several lawsuits and tribal elections, it's still not open. KCRG-TV9's Craig Brown looks back at the up and down roller coaster ride near Tama.
Bells and whistles fell silent 8 months ago. 1,300 employees have now moved on to other jobs. Gamblers have moved on to other casinos. And the Sac and Fox tribe, which runs the Meskwaki Casino, to date has lost $93 million in revenue. How on earth did it ever come to this?
And we have a right. Why don't you bring Charlie Obert here? We're getting tired of this crap.
Most of us see it as a squabble, and that's probably the best way to describe it. Some outsiders say it was a fight motivated by greed. Those involved say it was a fight motivated by honor over a tribe's history, not a casino.
The people have spoken. He needs to accept that fact.
Rumors of the casino's closure began to circulate in the spring. Supporters of one side picketed Wells Fargo Bank in Marshalltown, which allowed leaders from the other side to withdraw money.
That is tribal money. That's my money, that's his money, that's every person's that's out here, every tribally enrolled member, that's all of our money.
The National Indian Gaming Commission ordered the Meskwaki Casino to shut down on May 13th. 10 days later, federal marshals stormed the building and locked the doors.
You've got a lot to lose, Sheriff. I know there's a lot of money that's got to go through here. I mean, heck, I've lost enough to buy a couple of these machines.
More fights, legal orders, unrecognized elections, and a break-in would follow. Eastern Iowa watched the dispute what seemed like every day on TV9 News.
We're all hopeful it can only get better. It can't get any worse than this. And we're hoping it won't.
But the U.S. government would save the biggest plot twist for last. Homer Bear Jr. led the group that would never give up control of the tribal offices or the casino, claiming he was the true leader of the people.
The tribe will not sacrifice his vote.
But the U.S. government recognized the other guy, ousted leader Alex Walker. Both sides agreed to an October election which would be recognized by the government to once and for all end the dispute. But at the 11th hour, Alex Walker wanted to change the rules, and the government switched sides. This Christmas, Homer Bear now controls the tribe and has U.S. legal backing. Eastern Iowans can now only watch and wait for the casino doors to reopen and the tribe to write the next chapter. And just last week, the National Indian Gaming Commission lifted a closure order allowing the casino to reopen on New Year's Eve day. Reporting near Tama, Craig Brown, KCRG-TV9 News.
This fall, several counties passed or tried to pass gambling issues, hoping the State Gaming Commission would lift a moratorium on issuing new casino licenses.
But the commission deferred their decision to the state legislature. Some are betting the financially strapped state will issue 3 licenses. Black Hawk County is hoping to hit the jackpot. Gambling supporters in Waterloo certainly didn't expect their margin of victory on October 7th would be 2-1.
Surprised, I have to admit, very surprised, and feels good.
Mayor John Roof had supported the idea of a riverboat casino, even though there was dissent within the city council and argument from downtown business owners about where the boat should be located. Roof repeatedly asked voters to look at the big picture.
It's like any other issue that's very divisive. You're going to have people that are constantly questioning it.
The big picture has the riverboat casino located at the Lost Island Water Park, where Isle of Capri developers believe is a high traffic area. A lake would be created and an $80 million complex built. The outgoing mayor still believes if the legislature takes up the issue, Black Hawk County will be in the running for one of the 3 licenses.
The study that was done for the Racing and Gaming Commission said that of those locations around the state, probably the one that would least affect the existing gambling sites was one here in Black Hawk County. I think we stand an excellent chance of getting a license if the legislature will permit it.
Looking back, Roof believes the campaign to get this issue passed could have been organized differently.
That we needed to start earlier. I think if we had started earlier in the process and informed more people, we may have been able to do away with any of the criticism that surrounded it.
Strangely enough, opponent Luann Saul believes their campaign should have started sooner as well.
I think we felt like we weren't going to burden the citizens with the pros and cons, hit it hard at the end. I think we should have started sooner.
Saul says they've already contacted state legislators about their view on the gambling issue.
For the sake of our students and our children, our less fortunate and our seniors, I really believe that it's not a good thing for Black Hawk County.
A group calling itself the Cedar Valley Improvement Association is still planning to get the boat closer to the heart of the city. But Roof believes despite this idea, a unified plan will be the ticket to a possible award from the legislature. John Roof lost his mayoral bid in November, and in a runoff, Waterloo City Councilman Tim Hurley won the seat. He supports the Isle of Capri plan. The Iowa legislature goes back to work on January 12, 2004. So stay tuned. Well, the new year could bring new news about a big Cedar Rapids development project.
Voters said no to River Run in a 1-cent local option tax vote last June. But a slimmed-down successor, Destination Southside, is still in the running for Vision Iowa funding. KCRG-TV9's Dave Franzman recaps Cedar Rapids' big developments.
You look at the pieces.
The new year started with a bang for River Run. The ambitious plan called for a year-round farmers market, a renovation of Czech Village, and an extreme water sports park. The Vision Iowa board awarded $10.5 million to get it rolling.
Housing, the mixed-use development, and all the other aspects. It's an imaginative project. There's been a lot of public input. It will change the face of Cedar Rapids for years to come.
I think it's great. I really do. The south side of Cedar Rapids has needed a shot in the arm for a long time, and this will be the impetus, I think, to get things moving.
But to come up with $42 million in matching money, the city and county needed a yes from voters on a 1-cent local option tax.
River Run means there will be more to do in our community. New entertainment, restaurants, even a year-round market.
Supporters put more than $100,000 into a campaign. But when the votes were tallied up on June 10th, River Run fell short.
We, as a city, came forth and said, no, this is something we don't want or need now. We need a better plan.
Supporters regrouped and rethought. The controversial whitewater kayaking course that drew a lot of heat was just tossed out. An $8 million amphitheater will now depend on a private developer, not public funding. The city also accepted 100 acres of property from a company needing to move a sand pit operation. That would become a recreation lake. The slimmed-down plan took the name Destination Southside, and supporters took it back to the Vision Iowa board.
I think this speaks of a very significant vision. When you talk about building something that not only does your own community like, but others will want to come and be a part of, we've met that.
Last week, Destination Southside supporters returned to Vision Iowa to argue that the new plan still deserved the full $10.5 million in state funding. But board members questioned the financing. The new plan depended on donations and redirecting of city spending. The board also wondered if Destination Southside had public support. The grant was taken away, but members told the city to resubmit a plan by February and even invited supporters to ask for more than the original amount.
The mayor's made it very clear that he's very committed to it and that we're going to continue on, and a lot of pieces are there and will continue to be there.
We're talking about several hundred acres of property in the heart of our city that has housing challenges, that has seen brownfields and old companies close up, and we need to step up and get those areas back on the tax rolls and make them a significant part of the city again.
So the new year will begin with a slightly new plan, but the goal is essentially the same: reinventing neglected parts of Cedar Rapids and encouraging more development. And just like before, winning funding from Vision Iowa is a part of that plan. Dave Franzman, KCRG-TV9 News.
The Vision Iowa Board will consider the new application for funding in February of next year. Construction is complete on the 3 major components of America's River Project in Dubuque this year. Now it's time to bring on the tourists.
It took $188 million to build the Grand Harbor Hotel, the National Mississippi Museum and Aquarium, and the Grand River Center. KCRG-TV9's Rachel Lee shows how the city of Dubuque has capitalized on its investment.
It started years ago as a vision for Dubuque, but now the America's River Project is finally in operation.
We were the first to open. It's actually been a year this week, and we've had over 200,000 people have gone through the hotel and the water park.
The $26.5 million Grand Harbor Hotel opened in December 2002. The only indoor water park in the state has been splashing visitors from all over in its first year.
We believe from our zip code analysis from almost every state in the country and about almost 20 different countries from outside of the United States people have visited.
But the hotel wasn't the only thing tourists were visiting this year. The opening of a $57 million museum and aquarium this June also attracted attention.
To finally open to the public was just a moment of tremendous excitement and great joy. We really had no idea how well our exhibits would be received.
Exhibits visited by tourists in every state of the Union and more than 50 foreign countries.
we've had 175,000 visitors come. And that's right on target with what our projections were. So we think that this first 12 months is going to be a wonderful season, not only for the museum and aquarium, but for the whole America's River project.
And then came the opening of the $22 million Grand River Center in October, the final component to this 90-acre campus.
Right now, there's a little over 25,000 people on the books for the next 11 months. So we're starting to gear up. A lot more calls coming in now that we're open.
Each one of those components will lend itself to the other one, will feed off of each other, and it makes all of them successful having the three in that environment.
An environment that is helping to pay back the $188 million investment paid in.
We project, with the entire project completed, another $127 million on top of the monies we already see in visitor travel will happen annually as a result of visitor spending.
That investment it's immeasurable how many times that will pay off in so many ways.
A payoff on the project that has brought so many tourists to the river and Dubuque. In Dubuque, Rachel Lee, KCRG-TV9 News.
The Dubuque Welcome Center has seen tourism increase 20 to 30% in the last few months. The city ranked 7th in the state for tourism in 2002 and hopes the new port of Dubuque will boost that standing.
Well, as the end of the year approaches, so does the end of some major newsmakers' careers. Find out what Colonel Robert King of the Iowa National Guard and Superintendent Lou Finch of the Cedar Rapids School District plan to do during their retirement in the new year. Right after this. Welcome back to TV9 News at Christmas. 4 times this year, Colonel Robert King has had to release news about the death of a friend or a fellow soldier.
As the voice of the Iowa National Guard, it's his job to be the bearer of bad news. KCRG-TV9's Mike Wagner tells why Colonel King feels like each soldier's death is like losing a family member.
After 35 years in the Iowa National Guard, Colonel Robert King is spending his last days cleaning out his office. He hasn't been able to spend his last year in the Guard coasting to retirement.
You know, this week, unfortunately, there's been a black cloud hung over the Iowa National Guard. We've lost 2.
Instead, he's held emotional press conferences to reveal the deaths of Iowa Guardsmen.
The 4 press conferences that I've done here in the last 3 or 4 months, they were grim days. They were tough. They were hard.
Colonel King knew one of the soldiers, Chief Warrant Officer Bruce Smith, and he says while he didn't know the other men killed in Iraq, he was personally affected by their deaths.
They're part of the family. You know, they're what you hoped wouldn't happen. It's just difficult for me to, I just can't go up there and stone-faced. You know, I've got emotions like everybody else does. You know, I have a feeling for the soldiers. You know, we've lost somebody that helped make the Iowa National Guard what it is.
As the colonel packs up the items collected during his tour with the Iowa Guard, he doesn't expect to disappear. He led many of the send-off ceremonies, shaking hands and saluting soldiers before they left town, and he plans to welcome them back.
Even if I'm not a Guard member, I'm going to. I'll be there for the homecomings. You know, I have a real likeness and a fondness for the soldiers and the units and the families. You know, whether I know them or not. You know, I think it's my place to be there and cheer for them and mourn for them and be part of the organization.
Colonel King says in addition to a vacation and a new part-time job, he's also looking forward to RAGBRAI next July. He says for the last 13 years he's never worn anything green or even with a National Guard logo, but he's been amazed by the number of people who recognize him anyway. Well, after 9 years as the head of the Cedar Rapids School District, Superintendent Lou Finch is getting ready to say his goodbye.
And while he's faced some challenges in his 44 years as an educator, Finch says it's been a great career. KCRG-TV9's Angie Hunt has more on Finch's time in Cedar Rapids.
Where did you get yours? So I told her how I got Clifford.
It's moments like these that Superintendent Lou Finch says he'll miss most. Anytime Finch is out in a classroom, it's a reminder of what his job means.
I'll miss being a part of something that's worthwhile. I'll miss being a part of something, being a part of an institution called public schools, a Cedar Rapids Community School District.
Looking back on his 44 years in public education, Finch says he has a lot of good memories. In his time here in Cedar Rapids, Finch says passing the $46 million bond issue was one of his biggest accomplishments. He's also strived to maintain an environment of openness and trust.
He has great faith in people, genuine faith in people, and he has a genuinely optimistic temperament. And I think that coupled with his communication skills have made working together really very enjoyable, even when we've been dealing at times with very difficult issues.
McDermott was a part of the board which hired Finch 9 years ago. She remembers visiting with members of the board at his former school and how they felt at the time.
And they all really sincerely felt that they were losing not only an able administrator, but also a good friend. And I think that's one of the things that people around here are feeling as we talk about Dr. Finch's retirement.
During his 9 years in Cedar Rapids, Finch says he's received his share of criticism, but he's tried to balance the good with the bad and always keep one thing in mind.
I've always tried to focus on what is best for the kids. And it'd be nice if we could lower people's taxes, but you're dreaming. That's how we survive. Our focus is on addressing the needs of children, and that's first. I wish the legislature had that same attitude.
Closing the achievement gap among students is one of the challenges Finch says future administrations will have to tackle. But he adds that the fight for funding and resources will be the most difficult.
What's going on in Iowa right now is almost immoral. And it's economically ill-advised. When tax cuts are more important than educating your children, you really need to stop as a society and ask yourself, where are our values? Our teachers are dedicated, they're trying, they're working their hearts out, but you just can't do it when you don't have the numbers of people and the resources to do it. So you can say, that's the challenge.
While Finch may be leaving his position as superintendent, he doesn't plan to leave education. Finch says he has had some offers to teach or work as a consultant. In Cedar Rapids, Angie Hunt, KCRG-TV9 News.
Superintendent Finch planned to retire after the first of the year, but he recently agreed to stay on until April 30th to help make the transition to the new superintendent. We should also mention that Dr. Finch was named the 2004 Superintendent of the Year by the School Administrators of Iowa. Well, University of Iowa Hospitals and Clinics is a world-renowned teaching hospital.
Top-notch doctors, nurses, and staff provide first-rate medical care. But there are many people behind the scenes who contribute to the hospital's success. It's the infrastructure in place that really makes things happen. At any given time, on any given day, 20,000 people come to University Hospitals and Clinics in Iowa City.
Good morning, sir. How can we help? I'd like the valet parking. Got it. We can do that.
Service starts at the curb with a friendly hello from guest services and continues through the 4.3 million square foot facility. It's a facility that could run without any outside help, a city unto itself. It has its own water tower, 9 generators, and spends $15.5 million a year on utilities. On an average weekday, 8 cafeterias serve over 8,700 customers. That includes 1,200 inpatients. The hospital brews 800 cups of coffee a day, makes 350 slices of pizza, and serves 1,150 cartons of milk.
I just basically make sure that the cafeteria is stocked up with their supplies for the day.
Workers here wash over 52,000 pieces of dishes and silverware each day. UIHC has 2 travel agencies booking trips for a staff of more than 7,100 hospital employees.
$1.06 on this one, so we'll get them out today.
What would a city be without mail service? The mail room processes 3.1 million pieces of mail each year.
When I get done with this, it'll probably weigh about 250 pounds.
You guys work so quickly in here.
We have to, because people are sitting in their offices waiting for things, and so we just hurry up and get it up.
Maintenance workers like Dave Smith service 7 stories full of equipment and machines, 500 electrical beds, and 600 wheelchairs.
Pretty much anything that's on wheels, it'll come down to me, yeah.
And then there's the cleanup crew. A housekeeping staff of 480 cleans over 50,000 beds annually and removes 5 million pounds of trash. UIHC uses 380 rolls of toilet paper each day.
Back here in CV, there's 12 patient beds. I sweep, mop, clean, visit with the patients.
You enjoy your job?
Yes, I do. I do.
While Kathy cleans rooms, co-workers clean trays and trays of instruments. This is central sterilization, where the hospital staff sorts and sterilizes all those clamps, hemostats, and forceps. Workers here prepare an average of 350 to 400 surgical trays every day.
Jackie, good morning. Just
Good morning.
Going through the area here, everything's fine.
Yep.
Good.
Everything's fine.
Good, good. Thank you.
Harry O'Dean loves his job. He's been 10 years on the security force. The 22 uniformed officers patrol, protect, and help the public.
You come to the hospital, you got something that hurts, oh, you want somebody to take care of you. And you don't care whether it's a doctor or a security guard.
That's what they do here at UIHC. From security guards to surgeons, they take care of patients and in the process, take care of each other. In Iowa City, Edie Fawcett, KCRG-TV9 News. One other fact you might find interesting, UIHC removes snow on 80 miles of sidewalks every time it snows. Well, this newscast wouldn't be complete without a look back at some of the most memorable sports stories of 2003.
KCRG-TV9's John Campbell and Scott Sable will take us back through Robert Gallery's career with the Hawkeyes, all when we come back. Welcome back to TV9 News at Christmas. Well, this was another good year for the Iowa football team and another great year for senior tackle Robert Gallery. Gallery won first-team All-American honors and also received the Outland Trophy as the nation's top interior lineman. KCRG-TV9's John Campbell has more on Gallery's outstanding career in a Hawkeye uniform.
When I was trying to hear what we were supposed to go out when they said my name, and I couldn't even hear the announcer, so, that's pretty cool.
I get chills every time we come out, before the game, and, it's just something that, unless you've experienced it, you don't really know what it's like.
Yeah, just focus on him for a series or two. It's a real treat. This guy's a special player. I don't make extreme statements, but, if this guy doesn't win the Outland Trophy, that'd be a travesty.
Having Gallery up there just boosted the confidence. It's like knowing that holes are going to be there whenever you need him to.
He's a guy that just dominates his opponent. When I hand the ball off and turn around and look, he's got his guy driven to the sideline.
He just brings great leadership and, really gets us going in the huddle with his tempo and, his aggressiveness.
High praise for a young man who played offense, defense, and special teams in Class A football at East Buchanan and who signed a letter of intent in February of 1999.
They want to keep me a tight end, and they're hoping I don't get too big, but so they're not going to try and put me to tackle. They told me that. They're going to keep me a tight end. I figured I'd be a lineman at some point, but I didn't really know what was going to happen. I didn't know I was going to gain 50 pounds my first semester.
This is one of 3 passes Robert caught as a redshirt freshman. Then the call came. We need you at tackle.
If Coach asks you to do something, it's probably in your best interest. So, I said if it's going to help the team, I'll do it. And, I think it's been working out pretty well.
Now, don't take my word for it. Talk to people that watch linemen day in and day out. You talk to any NFL personnel that come through here that are seeing everybody in the country. It's not even, there's not even a race.
As good as Robert's blocking was, remember the pancake versus Illinois? It was a tackle he made at Michigan State that remains vivid.
He made a tackle, to me that was one of the greatest plays of his season. That play was a great effort play.
Yeah, I think I remember watching him pull away from me as I tried to run after the guy. But, that happens a couple times whenever there's a play downfield. I usually see him zoom past me.
Gallery gave it his all, whether riding a jet ski off the shores of Florida, peeling off his helmet decal for a young fan, or student teaching at an Iowa City elementary.
Okay, so which one do you know which one it is? you know, I didn't know how I was going to feel, but I fit right in, you know, probably not as mature as half those kids in that class, so, you know, it was a good fit for me. Fondest memory. Probably winning the Big Ten championship, you know, that's what, you know, going through the struggles we went through the first few years, and to be able to go from 1-10 to, you know, 10-1 or whatever it was, you know, that says something about people that are here, just to be in both ends of it.
Robert has one more college game to play. Then it's so long, Iowa City. Hello, NFL.
I think 5 years is long enough. Yeah, I love it and all, but you know, I'm getting kind of old this time. I think it's time to move on.
By the way, Robert Gallery is the third Hawkeye to win the Outland Trophy. Calvin Jones and Alex Karras were the other Iowa winners. Well, TV9 News on Sunday night at 10 just wouldn't be complete without Scott Sable's Golden Klutz Awards.
Oh, here's a look back at those quirky sports moments that made us laugh throughout the year.
Another year's gone by, not a whole lot's changed. Every week, I get my pants beat off by high school kids. Here's a few of the times that I got...
Girls, too. Lots of girls.
Girls, boys, and girls. Roll the tape.
Matt pulled off this half-quarter over his head. No looker, you've got to be kidding me. Can you say, Pig, it was time to eat some nasty stuff? Matt took a perfectly good coconut cream pie, added ketchup, buffalo wing sauce, mayonnaise, A1 sauce. It was nasty. I was blindfolded, didn't know I was eating. Oh, I can still taste it. Worst thing I've ever eaten. Maybe I should shoot barefooted more often on frozen pavement. And finally, the gazillion degrees below zero was starting to get the bearing. CEO, and he was pantless. My feet were frozen, so I was shooting on my own coat. Worked. But great shooters can heat up in a hurry. You got to be kidding me. COLD, and I'm out of here. Good thing there's only 4 letters in cold. Where's the building? Had to run across the rocks. My feet were frozen.
Okay, on the snap of the ball, Jenny, you're going to come out like here. Get down on all fours and start barking like a dog.
See, it's a simple distraction play. While I'm barking, the defense is looking at me like, what's this guy doing? Which leaves someone wide open for the easy bucket underneath.
I don't know how to bark. Okay, bark one more time.
Go ahead, practice. Go ahead. But Amy says enough's enough. Score tied at 4. She took me down low. Game, set, match.
Got beat by a girl today.
So you have to stand off here.
Yeah.
You got beat by a girl.
Got beat by a girl.
Poor guy.
You lost to a girl.
Yeah, I lost to a girl. That's right. I was so confident I was going to wear a woman's swimsuit. But I'll have to admit, Megan's dive was pretty impressive. 9, 9.5, and 10. The pressure was on. I learned that warm-up technique from Mr. Dangerfield himself. Now watch the form of the grace, and I nailed it. No splash whatsoever. That's got to be all 10s and the scores. 4, you got to be kidding me. I got robbed again. Hometown judges. And you try walking in your office with a woman's swimsuit on. I couldn't take the shorts off. The sight was ghastly.
You should see it without the shorts on. Wow. You got a nice back, Sable.
Nothing like kissing a greased pig on the rear end. Do me a favor.
Huh?
Bend over and center the ball on HUD,
Oh,
okay?
no.
Blue 39! Red 16! Hut, hut! Just like the Hawkeyes, me and the folks in Wellman had some trouble with our snaps. And unfortunately, that's not all we had problems with.
Mind putting the balloons down for a second? Will they take off?
Yeah.
Will you send me the ball? Oh, God.
I caught 2 of them, but 2 of them got away. It cost me $14. Down the hatch. It would have tasted better pan-fried. Let's go Raiders! Beat Monticello! Let's go Raiders! Beat Monticello! Let's go Raiders!
Hey, that's enough. I'll pay you to have you stop.
Scott Sable, TV9 Sports.
Beat Monticello. What are you looking at?
And be sure to watch for KCRG-TV9 Scott Sable and John Campbell when they cover the Iowa Hawkeyes in the Outback Bowl on January 1st. I tell you what, I think we should all chip in and buy Scott Sable a new dress for Christmas. What do you think?
Well, you just never know what he's going to come up with next, do you?
That's for sure. He's always got something to surprise us with. Well, this is a year, I think, with so much at stake around the world, the troops overseas. This is a year when the phrase peace on earth takes on even more meaning for all of us.
It certainly does. There are a lot of families who are going to be thinking about loved ones overseas.
Right. And for those of you who have families overseas, know that we're all thinking about you.
And that wraps up our TV9 News at Christmas special.
We wish you and yours all the best this holiday season.
Thanks for joining us. Have a very Merry Christmas.